Heretic is a dark fantasy first-person shooter video game released in December 1994. It was developed by Raven Software and published by id Software through GT Interactive. Let's be honest, Heretic was the game we all wanted at the time, we all needed it. We'd been playing around with Doom for over a year by this point, and we wanted a foray into the world of medieval, into a world of magic, and a world of mystery. Doom scratched our sci-fi itch, now it was time to scratch our Dungeons and Dragons itch. Of course, at this point, id Software had moved on with bigger fish to fry, so development duties were granted to Raven Software, who honestly did a stand-up job. The basic premise is the same as Doom. Fight enemies, collect keys, and navigate your way through levels in order to defeat the Serpent Rider known as the Sparrow. Well, maybe that last bit isn't the same as Doom, but you get the idea. The game did improve on Doom in a number of ways, including the addition of an inventory, making it more RPG-like. If Heretic was a good game, then its sequel, Hexen, was even better, building upon Heretic by adding further RPG elements such as the ability to choose your character class. The game varied quite a lot depending on who you chose, with the fighter focusing on melee combat, giving the game a more ancient and foreboding feel. Hexen also introduced a hub concept, to which you return after solving puzzles and unlocking areas elsewhere. Its sequel, Hexen 2, would expand upon the RPG element by offering 4 classes and incorporating more fiendish puzzles to untangle. So, our D&D needs were sated for a while, but let's be honest, that need to explore these mystical lands never went away. It's always been there. That warming feeling of watching Lord of the Rings, that pang of excitement when seeing a group of Warhammer figures, that need to feel encapsulated by the world of Hexen once again. We've got titles like Wizardom, Project Warlock, Apocryph, Hands of Necromancy, and A Medieval, but one that has piqued my interest quite a bit is Graven. Mainly because of what it promises. Now, Graven is developed by Slipgate Ironworks and published by 3D Realms and Fulqrum Publishing, who have sponsored this video. And like all sponsorships of this nature, I told them I'd share exactly what my views were, and they were completely on board with that, so here we go. Released on the 23rd of Jan 2024, early reviews are in. It's not looking great. Maybe I shouldn't have agreed to this. But let's go back to those promises. Solve puzzles and scour lore to uncover the motives of foul, heretical sects behind the plagues and seasons undermining the land. Spread fires, charge machinery, reveal hidden paths, and freeze rivers to walk across. Discover new weapons and upgrade them at blacksmiths and alchemists to customize your capability. Expand your horizons by returning to old stomping grounds with new abilities and seeing how far down the chasms go and what powers they hide. Fantasy, blood and gore, dismemberment and ludicrous jibs. You know, it sounds like they've nailed the elements that made Hexen fun, exciting and enchanting, with a quick nod to Rise of the Triads as well. The story is pretty straightforward. We are a faithful priest of the orthogonal order, exiled unto death for a crime in defense of another, and now we're living again in a small boat. Okay? We have to go forth as a pious priest, alleviating suffering, uncovering deceptions, and smashing the eldritch perversions encroaching upon reality itself. Basically, this land has fallen victim to a terrible plague that sees the inhabitants going wild and violent. And for us, well, that's a problem.
At times, the only light in this accursed swamp are the funeral pyres.
The first thing you notice, though, is the atmosphere. This game is absolutely drenched in it. Just taking in the surroundings on this forced boat ride is glorious. The droplets of water, the distorted air from the pyres, the smog, the shadows in the distance, you can almost taste this world. Once you get off your boat, the level of detail just gets better. The glow from those little houses, the plague-filled screams coming from inside. The birds that fly overhead, you feel immersed from the go, and honestly, that's the nostalgic hit I want. It's the same feeling I'd get when playing Heretic for the first time, feeling like this world actually existed. it's great. The only difference is that immersion back then was done by our awe and wonder and imagination. These days, we need these details to draw us in. It's expected. So a retro boomer shooter like this works best where it creates that same sense of awe and nostalgia, and it can do that by serving up how we felt and what we imagined using details like this. Our first task seems to be smashing boxes and taking whatever falls out. Mana, health, potions, it's all very exciting. And again, a throwback to games like Hexen where you do the same thing. Our next task seems to be talking to residents and reading notices to see what to do. Apparently this guard wants us to take care of some body piles in the sewers before going into the main town. I mean, that seems reasonable given we're an exiled priest. The sewers are where you get your first taste of plague violence. And honestly, it's a little distressing. These guys are not messing about. They want to ruin your day, and so swinging our staff truly and directly is a must. It's quite satisfying, to be honest. Our first puzzle is finding the handle to put on this door, so we can grab some barrels, fire some flames at them using the magic book we found in the sewer, and clear these bodies. Clearing body piles is important as well because they act as spawn points for enemies, like those little bases you'd get in Gauntlet. Now we're allowed to enter the main town and talk to a tax collector who has another task for us. Right, light some lighthouses. Yep, no problem. More box smashing, more wandering, more wandering. You quickly realise that you're actually doing more wandering than you like. The level design here can be confusing and sometimes you just don't know where to go. It took me about an hour to find the lighthouses and then light the lighthouses. That's without being distracted by the librarian who also has a task for you in the library, which you presume is the book-filled building behind her, but which turns out not to be that at all. This is actually the library, which you get to a lot later. And I guess that makes sense? This looks a lot more like a library, but, it's still confusing. In either case, it still all looks very pretty, so I guess that's kind of okay. I guess the initial problem is you don't really know what you're looking for. You might be looking for a tiny switch or a little corridor you've missed. You just don't know, so you don't know how long to spend in each environment. What I would say is that it feels like the game wanted to be more than the developers delivered. It feels like the RPG and exploratory elements were intended to be a lot more. There are big areas that really don't yield very much, other than the odd note which doesn't really serve a purpose, other than to shower you with information. The result is you end up searching these areas, thinking you're progressing, and really you're just wasting your time. It takes about 3 hours to really understand how this game works and what doesn't work, to get your head inside the developers and designers' heads. For example, once you light the lighthouses, you need to go back and tell the taxman, which isn't immediately obvious. It's also not immediately obvious where the hell he is, because the pesky rascal has ridiculously moved. So, find him, talk to him, and then, only then, will the next area open up. But, once you've done those first 3 hours, that's also the exact time at which the game gets interesting. You see, once you realise that this town area is just a central hub, just like in Hexen, and you're gradually unlocking other parts of the town, and those other parts are interesting places and often pretty darn beautiful as well, you just want to unlock more. You want to see what Graven has in store. Sometimes I wander into a new place and just take in the ambiance. And I don't mean to sound like a pretentious dickhead, but the mix of sound and light effects in this game are truly something to behold. There are often times I'd walk up to something like a bubbling stove and just take it in for a few minutes. Yeah, I'm starting to question my own sanity too. But then, I still get excited about seeing translucent water in games, so maybe I'm not the best gauge of this stuff. But you don't just start understanding the game at this point, it also becomes more of a gameplay experience at this point. And that's mainly because it gets pretty hectic. And it gets hectic while you're still avoiding arrow traps, solving puzzles, and working out exactly where to go. But this isn't a bullet hell kind of hectic, it's interesting, and at times it's unsettling. Look at these guys. They absolutely scared the crap out of me when they appeared. That rapid, determined movement not only catches you off guard, but it's unnerving. These skeletons come at you with a persistence that I admire, plus I love skeleton enemies, but when you encounter them, you'll have a fletchant which basically hurls rock fragments at them, and it's honestly a pretty satisfying experience, especially when compared to the cuff bolt you get earlier on, which is a bit crap. Talking of satisfying, once you level up your staff a bit, smashing the absolute crap out of characters so they literally fly through the air and smash into a wall is also very great. And these dragon guys, well, they're an absolute pain in the arse, to be honest. Spilling this fire-like acid down on you that spreads quicker than a leaking nappy is both horrific and annoying, just like a leaking nappy. Thankfully, they're quite easy to take out. But god damn, I've met less annoying Morris dancers. This game is like From Dusk Till Dawn. It rapidly goes from a sedate and sometimes frustrating exploratory experience to an all-encompassing and quite exciting experience. You have to keep on your toes and you have to work out things at the same time, and honestly that's quite an addictive combination. Alongside this entire experience, you also have your inventory. This can be expanded upon by visiting the town alchemist or blacksmith, who can offer upgrades, like these explosive alternate firing rocks, which are great. But the most important things to have really seem to be health potions that you can neck on demand, and some kind of armour. Without armour, your life depletes pretty damn quickly. You know, once you get into it, this game is good. It has its flaws, but it's a good game, and it does remind me a lot of old-style medieval games like Hexen and Heretic. It's got the same elements and the same kind of atmosphere. But I do have gripes, and one of those is sometimes you still feel lost even after getting into the game, and if you're impatient, that's a problem. 90s me would have loved the opportunity to explore and look in every nook and atmospheric cranny. 2024 me just wants to crack the hell on. Plus, early access versions literally had a map. Here, the map is gone. According to the publisher, that's because Acts 2 and 3 are more complicated and it was too much to implement the map, so they took it out entirely. That's a shame, because a map would be mighty handy. There are other gripes I have, such as burning wood. For some doors, you need to set fire to the wood that protects them, but then there are doors like this which burn but don't actually fall away. Why do that? It's just confusing. Should I just stand here and wait, or just try to find another entrance? Navigating ladders can be a pain in the arse too. I mean, just get down. What are you doing? You know, you'll find lots of little gripes which don't make it a bad game, they're just more questionable. You'll ask yourself, why is that the case? I've seen other people complain about save points, but honestly, I didn't have a problem with that. If you quit, then you start back at the town square, which is fine because you still have all your progress, all your ammo, all your things, and even treasures you've smashed open from boxes remain in place. If you die in the game, then you'll go back to your nearest respawn point, which also works, fine. But then the developers do already seem to be taking care of a lot of reported problems. I had heard the game had an awful stamina system in early access builds, which will never not piss me off. Please stop implementing them. The fact that you can get out of breath after running for 10 seconds is ridiculous. Imagine being able to fight enemies to absolute crap, carry tons of weapons and jump massive gaps, but yet you can only run for 10 seconds. I can literally run for more than 10 seconds. I can run for a minute, at least. What the hell is it with these cardio sock blowers that have to sit down on a bench after a few paces? But thankfully, like I said, the developers do seem to be listening to feedback, and the stamina system has been changed to make it a little more forgiving. And I didn't really have a problem with it. Maybe my gripes are a bit harsh, because honestly though, Graven is addictive. It's weirdly addictive. I find myself getting frustrated trying to find something, but then an hour later, I want to play it again, and then I can often work out where to go or what to do. I want to keep immersing myself in this atmosphere-drenched fantasy world, and maybe that's just because I often prefer style over substance, to be honest. Maybe a game having the ability to pull me into a world is more important than it having the perfect combination of rewarding gameplay and progression. Maybe, but then maybe it's the same for you. That's the thing with games like this. You'll either love it, or you'll be upset trying to find your way around. The bottom line is, I, myself, am enjoying Graven quite a lot. Out of the many games I've played of this type, this game actually gives me that nostalgic feeling of exploration that I used to love, and I'm kind of getting back into it. It feels like a game of old, and I can't really ask for more than that. Oh, apart from the fact that it also does have an online co-op mode, which is absolutely my favourite way to play games online. It's just like playing Duke Nukem 3D co-op, which was always the best way to play it. Oh, and it does have a 3DFX graphics mode, which kind of makes the visuals feel like, you have a 3DFX card. So that's a nice element too. If you want to play this on Steam Deck, then it seems to work absolutely fine. There's nothing I could find that I couldn't do whilst playing on PC. So, there it is. That's Graven. It's a pretty good game. And I'm not just saying that because I've been paid to. If you're a fan of Hexen or Heretic, then really you should take a look and see if it's your cup of tea, because honestly, this might be the one you're looking for. Until next time, I've been Nostalgia Nerd. Toodaloo.